So this is the tutorial number 2 about how to create a bass part to go with your drum pattern that you did from the last video. Now again, this is a step-by-step guide. I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to give you examples that you can copy. Just remember, what you want to do is not copy something in the end. You want to be able to feel comfortable to experiment and change things up a little bit, even if it's just tiny changes. So while I encourage you to copy out what I'm doing as I'm going, I also encourage you to then at the end, once you've got the hang of what you're actually doing, take some things out, add some things in, just make it a little bit different, make it your own. So from the last video, we created a drum pattern. Now I've changed mine slightly. I've gone back to the basic 3 again, and I've just taken out a couple from all my experimenting before. I've also changed the instrument. So it currently sounds like this. So what we want to do is create a bass guitar or a bass instrument pattern that can sit on top of that and feels like it fits. So very first thing we have to do is we have to get a bass instrument up. So step 1, we go add new track. We go to, now you can either take your pick whether you go guitar and bass or whether you go synthesizer. I'm going to go guitar and bass. Now at the moment, it's going to sound a bit like an electric guitar. So the first thing we're going to do is change the instrument. So where it says rock mountaintop lead, select. Now it's completely up to you what type of bass you go for, whether you go into just bass, whether you go acoustic, electric, kick, synth. You can have a listen to them, see what they might sound like. That's completely up to you what you use. I'm just going to select one at random for now. You have a listen. Now to do the bass, you're going to be using this keyboard. Now the letters on this keyboard refer to the letters on your keyboard as to, like if I press the W, it would play this note, which is an F. And when I press it, the actual name of the note will come up. That is not the note W. As you know, we don't have a note W. Now, if you're on a phone or a touchscreen device, you won't have those letters. You'll just be able to tap on the keyboard. Okay, so first thing we need to actually do is start to create something that we think works with that drum pattern. So the very first thing I'm just going to do is find a note that I think works. Some notes you'll just think, oh, that doesn't work too well. It's a very strange concept, but there's going to be so many notes on here that do work. The only thing with bass is we want to kind of keep it around this area here. If it gets too high, it stops being a bass. Remember, bass means low. So I'm going to play the drum part, and then I'm just going to play around with a couple of notes to see if I find something that I like the sound of. So I think I like the D there. So I'm going to select that one to start with. Now, before you even start recording, you want to actually just play around with some sort of rhythm that you think would work well. So start simple. So once you've selected your instrument and you found the note, this is your next step. So feel free to pause the video, complete the steps before, and then come back in. So I'm going to play the drum part, and what I'm just going to do is just using that one key, just experiment with some different patterns, some different rhythms over the top of that particular drum beat. So I've just started with 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the simplest thing that you can possibly do. So let's stick with that for now and see how we go. So I'm going to go back to the beginning by pressing this key here, or you can just drag your purple bar. I'm going to press record, and that's going to count me in 8 counts. I'm going to turn my metronome on as well, because that'll give me a click And what I'm going to play is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I press record. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you stop. You just have to play 4 because remember it's only really short that we're going to be playing 4. Okay. Now I'm going to have a listen back to that. Now the next really important step with bass compared to drums is when we did drums we actually have the grid that we could press. We don't have that for bass. So next step, once you've got those 4 beats in there, we're going to go to piano roll. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Remember, every single time the instructions get too much, I want you to stop, pause, go and complete the steps, and then come back. Okay, so just zoomed in a bit so we can make sure these notes are nice and clear. I'm just going to click anywhere around the start here, just not on the note, but anywhere else. And I'm going to hold, and then I'm going to drag a box over all 4. When that's done, right click, you're going to quantize, and you're going to go to 1/4. And what's that? All that's done is just move these perfectly in line with those lines going down the screen. What that means is they're going to be in time with our drum beat. So if we listen back to it, it doesn't sound out of time now. Hey, not sounding too bad. Okay, so that's the very first step. So make sure you've gone and done that. Make sure you've quantized. Don't skip that step. You must absolutely do that. Okay, the next step is we need to make this a little bit longer. So I'm just going to close this for now. I can always go back into it. Okay, I'm going to loop our drum part. So this little curly arrow up here, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to drag it out to number 5. And again, to make this easier, you can zoom back in so you can see it all on one screen. So it's 4 loops. You can see the little divots in the top, 4 different sections. And I'm going to drag out my bass part the same. Now what this loop bit at the top does is it just copies what you had before, and it's just copied it out as many times as you drag it for. So we're going to go 4 times. So go and do that on yours, and then come back. Okay, we're going to now turn off this cycle. So we just click on the purple bar and it should go grey. If not, click on the cycle over the side. We're going to move this purple line, which is our play bar, to the number 3, directly in the middle. So we've got 2 on this side, 2 on this side. Right click on the bass part and go split region. So what that's done is it split that bass part. So now instead of looping this one, this is looped and then this is a new one. So if I change something in here, it won't change in here. So that's a really good technique when you want to copy something but change it later. Loop it out, then cut it into different sections, and then you can change those sections. So our next step, we're going to change this second half. We're going to change the notes. That's it. We're going to keep the rhythm the same. We're just going to change the notes to something else. So we're going to double click on this second one. You're going to be able to see all 4 on your screen. Again, you can zoom in if you need to. These first 2 we're leaving alone. These next 2 we're going to change. But remember, we are currently looping, so we don't need to change both. We just need to change this third one. We click and highlight all exactly the same way we did when we were quantizing. And what we're going to do is change notes. Now, you can experiment with this as much as you want, find something that works. You can keep it playing so you can hear the difference. Yeah, I'll try a B. any of these notes work. Remember, bass, we want to focus on the low areas. Let's have a listen. I didn't like that note, so you can hear that just a little bit. We're going to change note. I'm going to go back up to a C. Sounds a bit better to my ear, but once again, there's only guidelines to this. It's completely up to you what note you change to. Right, so that is your next step. So once you've split the tracks, we want to change this third one, and we want to change the notes. So we get 2 bars of the same note and then 2 bars of the next note. So pause the video, go and complete that, and then come back for the next step. Alright, our next part is we're actually going to change up those second and fourth bars. So the ones that are currently slightly grayer because they're looped, so we can't actually change them yet. To change them, you know what we have to do. We have to split the track. So the number 2 at the top, we're just going to click there. So the purple line's directly through the middle of 1 and 2. We're going to right click, split region. Right, and now number 2, you can see that we can now edit this and it won't change the beginning. So what we're going to do is just change some of these notes to make it feel like it's maybe moving somewhere. Again, this is all experimenting, and what you can do is you can actually loop this if you want. So go all the way to number 5, keep the loop on, and you can play it so it'll automatically play your changes. So we're not changing the rhythm, we're keeping the same 4, but I'm just moving them up and down to change the notes. Right? When you're happy with your second bar, you're going to do the same thing to your 4th bar. So go number 4, right click, split region, and now we're going to edit number 4. I'm going to keep it playing so I can hear the difference. It works for me. Now, of course, I wouldn't say this is perfect, but this is a really good start and it's a good development to get going. So make sure you've gone and completed that on your own. Now this next part is where I'm going to start to ask you to start creating things. Remember, there's no right or wrong. The only thing we want is that it's mostly based off this one idea. But of course, you can change this idea if you want. So I might say I'm going to take out this middle note and I'm going to double up at the end. So just by double clicking wherever you want a note on here, it will appear. So that's how I added this other one. I might move this one along so it's a little bit later. Then I might want the same rhythm here. So again, I delete the 3rd one. I'm going to add an extra one at the end. Move that one along. So again, I've mostly kept the same idea, and the 1st bar and the 3rd bar, they're the same, they're just on different notes. The 2nd and 4th bar can be a little bit different, but at the moment they're the same, they're just on different notes. Let's have a listen. I might just change that right there. So it's up to you whether you want to make it really complex or whether you want to keep it nice and simple. But you can see I started out with just 1, 2, 3, 4. I copied that 4 times. I split halfway through and I changed the notes on the 3rd time. And then I split halfway through the front bit, and then I changed the notes on the 2nd time to move them around to make it sound like it was going somewhere. And then I did the same on the 4th time. And now I'm just creating a little bit more texture by just changing up the rhythm a little bit. And this is where we get to the no wrong, no right, but it needs to match your drum part. So at the moment, this is all fitting with the drums really nicely. So every single time you make a change, just make sure you listen back to your drum part, make sure it still fits. Let's just say if I had a couple of notes in here, it might not fit so well. I don't like some of those notes, but honestly, that rhythm was okay too. So see, even when I'm trying to create something that doesn't work, you can always find those little ways that these will actually work with each other. So that is how we are going to create our bass line. So again, go back and watch the sections that you need help with if you want to. Make sure you follow it step by step. Again, copy exactly what I've done up until that final part when you can start to experiment with your own different rhythms, especially if you're having trouble. Okay, the next one is going to be about how we actually add chords to this. So make sure you've completed your bass line in full with the 4 different sections before you go on and watch the next video.